Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show!
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which has been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011,
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
with a focus on football.
Kansas City 31, San Francisco 20. Mahomes takes the snap. He is just going to throw it long for Demarcus Robinson. It is going to use up all the time. The game is over, and the Chiefs' kingdom has firmly planted its flag on top of football's highest summit. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions of Super Bowl 54.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting alongside me, thankfully, is Mr. Justin Raffoff.
It's been a week, man. It has been quite a week. But yeah, glad to be here, and things rolling again.
Glad you're still with us. Disappointed that you couldn't be here last week.
Yes, yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, you still
But
contribute to the show.
as we were talking, that was a really good call on our part.
Yeah.
Like we sometimes go out on limbs and make predictions. We do that lots on our shows here,
Right.
actually. And last week we had to do one, for something slightly different, regarding my health and just trying to not do what's best for everyone. And so
Well,
decided
the
decided
predictions
not
were
to be-
accurate.
right.
We made the good call.
Yeah. And then it went downhill from
Yeah,
there.
things got worse after Sunday night.
It was
so.
quite a ride for a good 5 days or so. But then it's been better the last few. So we're back on track and hopefully ready for spring to be here, and maybe that'll help.
There are
Seasonal allergies.
a lot of easy jokes out there. They've been made in private. We won't put them out publicly, but I mean, you can use your imagination. But healthy enough to do the show, so that's positive.
That's right.
Now, we weren't here on this show last week,
No.
but we did have quite the spectacular on the Bulldog
Yeah.
Hour, and we got to welcome Chad Henne onto the show, the Bulldog Hour, for the first time, but with us for the third time. The first two times it was on this show. And just the way the schedule worked out, it was a time for us to do a Wilson football podcast. And, well, we didn't really talk too much about the 2019 or 2020 teams. Touched on it at the beginning, but dove headfirst into our discussion with Chad about his season with the Kansas City Chiefs, which I'm sure if you're listening to this show, you know culminated with a Super Bowl victory, and we talked to him all about that, and we showed some awesome pictures that he shared with us and allowed us to broadcast on the show, which was a lot of fun. And I showed this to Justin before. I didn't get to mention it last week, but he brought back a program, passed that
awesome.
along. And I do have to thank not only Chad for bringing in and signing in and everything. It was really awesome, the Super Bowl program, but my dad talked to his father-in-law about it. So I'd like to thank Mr. Hartman and my dad and Chad for getting that together and and dropping that off for me, because it's obviously will go in the Wilson Football Archive for preservation of history. As I have an official Super Bowl 54. Again, I love the coincidence of it being Super Bowl 54. And, an autographed program from the event. So
Yeah,
super
that's
cool. We'll add that to my my collection behind me. So I appreciate everyone involved in that. And we didn't get to mention last week on the show, but I knew that we were going to have the opportunity to say something today because of the local event happening. But the main Penn State Dance Marathon was last weekend. It was Friday through Sunday, 46 hours, 6 o'clock Friday to 4 p.m. on Sunday. And they had another fantastic fundraising year. I can't remember off the top of my head the exact number, but it was over $11 million.
Yeah, which is insane.
Right, because they don't do canning anymore.
No, yeah,
it's
think
changed.
about that. Think about that. They don't do canning. Now, I know there are times, it's not necessarily like, oh, we just lose all of that and don't gain anything. Like, I know there are probably things they do now that they didn't do
right,
before.
But it's not exactly the same.
Right, no, it absolutely is not. You're still losing a thing, especially for a long time. That was like one of the, I know there are lots of other sources of donations and things, but like in terms of like public eye, that was a very common thing you saw. There are weekends where just big intersections, you'd see people out canning. Like it was a known thing, and a lot of people, it was a big deal at the time, and I feel like a lot of people now sometimes are like, oh yeah, like that they don't do canning anymore, and they still were at over $11 million, which is absolutely
did a great job. Incredible event. If you like, we say it every year, and I think we've talked about it nearly every year.
Right.
That we've done this show or in mid-February. But if you haven't done anything with Thon, like even looked into it, you're definitely doing yourself a disservice. And it's an incredible philanthropic endeavor, and it's incredible. And Kelly and I can't speak anything but positivity about it. And we enjoyed our time fully participating in the event for the last 3 years that we were at Penn State. And thankfully, over the years now, I think it's been about a decade or so that Four Diamonds Fun and Thon embraced high schools to run their own separate
awesome.
Events called mini-thons. And I believe we've talked about the Wilson one many years on this show. And if you've been with us for a while, you might recall that 5 years ago, Justin and I did our show live from the event. We did 2 separate shows for, I believe, 3 hours each time.
Yeah.
It's like 8 to 11 Friday evening or Saturday evening, because I think it was Saturday and the Sunday when we did it 5 years ago. It was like, or maybe it was Friday to Saturday, I don't remember. But it was like 8 to 11 in the evening, and then we went back and broadcast from like, because I think it might have been 7 to 7 then. I know it's changed a little bit since they started it, but we were there for 3 hours late the first night and then very early the next morning. Their events run for 12 hours. And Wilson, I believe this year was the 7th one that Wilson's done. I think the first one was in the spring of 2014 or late winter 2014. So I believe this was the 7th one. And they keep doing a great job. I'm going to try to pull this up here, see if I can zoom in a little bit to enlarge the photograph for everyone to see. But from the official Wilson School District Twitter account, we can see that Minithon this year was able to raise over $91,000, $91,827.96. So congratulations to the Wilson School District and all the staff leaders and the captains, and then all the students that raise money on their donor drive pages. They did another fabulous job in the 3 straight years, I believe, at over 90,000.
Yeah, which is absolutely amazing. You look at, again, and the thing with Thon at Penn State, and one of the things that's always talked about there is it's student-led, and I think that part kind of gets overlooked a little bit as well. Now, there is a sense of where, it is this machine, and I don't mean that in a negative way, where you get involved. It's not like you're starting with whole new people every year. You are, but you don't just become like the head,
torch,
It's not like you have 200 people running the thing that have never been involved before. No, like you kind of work through, usually you're on some kind of staff here, and then maybe you are an officer, and then maybe you are an officer of the overall. So, like you work your way through that generally. And it's cool to see that at that high level, because that's part of what helps it go from year to year.
Right.
And we've reached that point where that's happening in the high schools too. You get kids that are, they dance their freshman year or maybe their sophomore year, and then they, they're real involved the next year, and then they're like on a committee the next, like they're working their way through, and it's cool to see them like take ownership and get involved with that and the ideas that they have, and some of the things that, like we said, some of the fundraisers they do every year, and then sometimes they're coming up with new ones, and it's great to see them working and how involved they get in that. And I know there are a number of them that have gone to Penn State and get real involved with on there. But I also know that there are a ton that have gone to other schools where they haven't done this as long, but something is like starting, and they also get really involved at those other schools and help get those efforts off the ground too.
Yeah.
Which is also incredible, because it's, while we like to sit here and talk about Penn State lots, like we're going to commend everyone in their efforts to combat pediatric cancer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we don't care where you're doing that. That's a good thing.
No, that's a positive for
everyone. It's
everyone.
awesome. And I'm glad to see that it seemed to be a successful evening and months leading up to it.
Absolutely, for sure. So actually, when I was a captain at Penn State my senior year, it was the first year I was at the Bryce Jordan Center. It was in February 2007. But I remember leading up to the event talking about some of the things that happened, and one of them was the other universities sending representatives to how we run the dance marathon so that they can either start their own or make theirs bigger and better. That was something that we got to do. They would come in, and I was, because I was a pass team captain, allowing people in and off the floor. We had to hand those out, and we had to be aware of who was coming and why they were requesting that pass and things like that. And that was always cool to see what big D1 type universities were stopping by to see how Penn State ran things. Yeah, and again, how Penn State students ran things.
Right. Yeah. It really is a cool thing to see. You mentioned it. You were there for that first year at Bryce Jordan Center. I know my dad always tells me how he remembers how it was in a ballroom when he was there. It was still in the ballroom. It hadn't made its way to Rec Hall yet at the time. So it was just lots of stories of people thinking back to those times at Penn State, or now you're getting these whole groups of kids that remember it from high school, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna stick. It's not the Bulldog Hour. We're gonna stay in the home territory and talk a little bit here.
Definitely newsworthy though.
Quickly, just because I know that the majority of people that watch this show have some connection to Wilson in some way. And just yesterday, Justin and I were in Hershey for the 2020 PIAA District 3 6A basketball championship game, which Wilson was playing in for just the third time in their basketball history. Of course, their basketball history is actually older than their football history, than the Wilson football history. And, it's been a long time coming, but Wilson was able to win yesterday, and it was an incredible environment and atmosphere. It was a lot of fun to be at. It was set up beautifully, playing against Reading High for a fourth time this year. Insane. Obviously, a huge Berks opponent. And
and I know they're very different, but we do talk a lot of the high school football in here, and it's always crazy when we talk about those potential rematches in football, and that's twice. And I know it's a different game, and I know it's different, but playing your biggest rival in basketball four times, and and two of those being playoff games, one in the league playoff semifinals, and the other in the district championship. It doesn't get any crazier than that.
Yeah, so Wilson beat Reading 4 times this season already. I don't think they'll get a fifth, but that would be something, because it would mean it would be in the state final.
Hey, you know what? I'd love to have the chance. I'd love to have the chance.
That opportunity would be pretty great.
I'm pretty sure Reading would sign up for that now too.
Absolutely.
Everybody would sign up for that.
That was something that came to a head and became a lot more public. If you're on social media in the last 36 hours, that despite sometimes the attitudes between the fans, the coaches and players are very close between a lot of the Berks schools. We saw Wilson and Reading, both players and coaches, embracing and propping each other up immediately after the game and in the hours that follow. And then today we saw Muhlenberg do the same, reciprocating the respect for each other's programs, as Nesby and Coldren, the two coaches, got together showing off their district championships. Muhlenberg's in the classification below Wilson and Reading in 5A, but they did win. And Drago was just posting on Twitter all about the uniqueness of this basketball season for Berks County.
Well, and it was interesting because I don't know if you caught it, because it was chaotic, but when they were when they awarded the medals and things to Reading, that's a tough time to second place, because you're
you were this close.
Right, yeah, and very close in this instance.
Very.
And, the Wilson fans, or Wilson students, athletes, went over and, congratulated and, kind of gave a congratulations to the Reading players and coaches and everything like that. And, that was nice. It is something that we've seen. I think Muhlenberg did it last year in one of their games, and I had not seen it before at that time. And when it happened, the PA announcer at the Giant Center, who is like the legendary guy who does all of the Giant Center games and everything, like he is like the voice of PIAA championships and things like that. Just starts kind of talking about how Matt Coldren and Coach Perez are the classiest individuals, and you won't see better prepared teams and better teams like in terms of their sportsmanship. It's just nice to hear a guy that has, in my understanding, no ties to either program other than he's calling the game. Just appreciating what he's seeing there, because like you said, people get caught up in things like that, and it's easy to do in the game, but it is cool to see things like that in the moments after the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great atmosphere, very, very fun, great game to be at. And they got to take home the big prize, to get the trophy and the medal. And again, I don't know if I did say it. I said this was the third time playing in it, but it was the first time Wilson's won. Yeah. And so not only was it just the third time that the team has made it this far, but it's the first district championship in boys basketball program history at Wilson. So it's a huge achievement. And I know right before the show started, I saw Mike Drago from the Red Eagle on Twitter saying that Wilson is the only team in the state in any classification. I'm assuming he's talking boys basketball, to have 27 wins. Yes. And they're also one of only 6 programs with just 1 loss. Yeah. And they're the only one in 6A. Yeah,
all the others are 3A or lower.
Right. So now Wilson, there's 5 more games to go, but you lose, you're done.
Right. It's
I guess until the Final Four, because they play a third place game.
Oh, do they?
At least that's what the bracket showed.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they did
which
that.
I assume is right before the championship, Saturday, March 21st at Giant Center.
So, I think they do.
That's what the bracket showed, an extra game right there at the bottom. So essentially you are guaranteeing yourself 5 games if you can win 3 games. Okay. So,
well, starts with 1.
Yeah, Wilson,
on Saturday.
There's a triple header at Kutztown University featuring Reading.
Reading against I know who they play.
I'm trying to remember.
I'm forgetting right now, but I know that I saw it. But Reading boys are there in the first game. Twin Valley girls are there in the second game. And then the Wilson boys are there in the third game.
So that game the Wilson game, I should say, is scheduled to start at 4 p.m.
I still love the front on the banner there, Allison Willimeyer.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Front, yeah.
That's awesome. Yes, she was a beast.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, very, very strong track and cross-country performer. So Wilson will open with North Penn out of District 1.
Yeah, the 10 seed out of District 1. Now, again,
that's the final seed, I believe.
That is. But it's a little distorted. I've heard not much about North Penn. I know they've got really good size. Shocker. A school that has over 1,000 kids a grade has some tall kids. But
so that's my cursor's not showing up on the screen, but Wilson's about halfway down on the left, 3-1. That's the District 3 champion. Wilson 27-1, hosting the 10th seed out of District 1, North Penn. Under 500 for the year, though. Yeah. 12-15.
Now, you look at a lot of the teams that they lost to are also in the state playoffs. Right.
Lower Marion, Cheltenham.
Yeah. Methacton.
Methacton
beat the snot out of Cheltenham in the District 1 title game.
Yeah, well, and they did the same thing to Chester in the game before that. Yeah. So, and Methacton is a team that Wilson beat.
Right.
I believe at the very beginning of February, about maybe a month ago today, actually.
In a game that came down to the wire.
Yep. And Methacton was either at least a Final Four participant last year, if not in the state championship. They made a deep run
in the states last year,
and
so they know what they're doing.
If I read the bracket correctly, if if they make it the way normally, Methacton would kind of be the number 2 overall seed, I would think. Number 1 in the North bracket, and whereas we're number 1 in this South bracket here, or however you want to call it.
Right.
So hopeful that Wilson can win this first one this coming Saturday at Kutztown against North Penn, and then they'll get the winner of Northampton and Lower Merion.
Lower Marion's very good. I'm sure Northampton's good, but Lower Merion, I know they have that 6 seed there, but
But they had to go up against the likes of
District
Cheltenham
1,
and
right,
Methacton
right,
and Chester.
Right.
So, yeah. I've been told that should Wilson beat North Penn, the game against either Northampton or Lower Merion could be at the Geigel.
Okay.
So, not even closer than Kutztown for Wilson. That would be a great draw if Wilson would be able to play, should they defeat North Penn, play in the second round of states,
especially
at the Geigel in Reading.
That would be a Tuesday, so not having to go.
It's a Wednesday.
Okay, not having to go that far on a school night though would be that's huge.
So it's Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday.
Like you said, they have to take care of business against North Penn because there's no. Like in districts, because they had gotten the bye, even if they lost their first district game, they would have had a chance to still win their way into states because they had a bye through that first round. That's not how it works in states anymore. Like you lose, you go home.
Yeah.
Essentially.
For the most part, yeah.
So you got to win these games. It's good to get some rest. A week off I know can be kind of a little crazy, but they just had that. They had 3 tough games in a row: McCaskey, Cedar Crest, and then Reading. Yeah. But to be honest, and I was talking.
When you get to that stage, though,
I was talking to someone last week. Right, like when you're reaching the quarter, semi, and finals of districts, and now into states, you can look at stuff and be like, oh well, I think every team's good. Like every team you're gonna face from here on out is gonna be good / really good. There aren't bad teams left. And I know that's a little distorted because people are like, oh, there's so many teams make it. No, listen, 10 teams make it out of District 1 because of the mass of, half the teams that are 6A in the state, basically, or half the 6A teams are from District 1. You have to take that into account. And we talk about that a lot more on our Bulldog Hour show a lot of times when we discuss kind of East versus West and that more because it's more of a straight bracket because there aren't as many teams involved. But it is pretty interesting. Yeah, and I'm pretty thankful that they're going to Kutztown on Saturday.
I won't
and
be able.
That's why you need to win those games.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it either, but I know a lot of people will be heading up there. So
yeah, I would love to be able to go, but I have work in the morning and then a family activity in the afternoon, so I'm not going to be able to go this Saturday. Wouldn't mind going Wednesday should they win, especially if it's at the Geigel.
Right.
Not a long drive on a work night like that, but we'll see how it goes. I have already penciled in, should it happen, that Tuesday and Saturday of the Final Four and the state championship, just to make sure I remember that that's when it will be, should they make it that far, because those are games that I would definitely like to be in attendance for, and maybe just like this last weekend, take some pictures of it, because this championship's right back where we were in the Giant Center on Saturday the 21st, and it's primetime, 8 o'clock is the big one. So
the show.
We'll see, but I do like looking here at this tweet about locations, although I don't believe in the slightest that the distance from Cornwall, Lebanon, to St. Peter's, or excuse me, not St. Peter's, Peters Township out near Pittsburgh is 4 hours and 45 minutes. That is no way is that accurate. That's at least an hour over what it actually is. Right. Not that it takes too much away from the argument.
I'd give them 4 hours. I'd give them 4 hours.
I think we can make it from here to 84 in 4 hours and 15 minutes. So you're already farther west to begin with. So
right, and Cedar Crest is right off of the turnpike exit there.
That's what I'm saying. There's no way. So we're talking Cedar Crest boys basketball has to travel to Peters Township to play Mount Lebanon. It's a long drive, and I texted you about it earlier today. I was like, wow, they have to go out there for that, and that is unfortunate. And he points out that Central Dolphins got to travel 4 hours to North Allegheny. Central York only has to go 15 minutes to West York. Right. Harrisburg's going almost 2 hours to Plymouth Whitemarsh, and 1 and 2 Wilson and Reading are at Kutztown. But now, that's he kind of was proving the point.
Right. And like Harrisburg got that because of the side bracket they're on. Like they end up going to, play the Philly schools. I think Harrisburg has to play. They might have to play like Roman Catholic or something. I forget who they play in the first round, but
It doesn't. It has no bearing whatsoever on the state tournament.
yeah.
Winning your league has nothing to do with the state.
It has all to do with the seat. That's how they know. This isn't NCAA bracketing where they just match up teams that they want to see. No, this is literally the bracket existed before. That's why when Wilson won yesterday, everybody's like, "Oh, they're playing North Penn," because North Penn had played Friday night, I believe.
Yep.
So they knew that North Penn was the 10 seed, and they know that District 3 1 seed plays District 1 10 seed. I might have said that backwards, but you know what I mean.
I got you. So, but I mean, enough of local high school athletics. Although I probably should mention the boys swimming team won district gold. The girls swimming team was district second place. Also placed a huge number of bowlers into the state tournament after placing in the top 6 at regionals, both boys and girls. Excellent representation, not from just Wilson, but Berks County in general.
A solid weekend.
And I know swimming.
There's a number that are going to be competing in a week and a half at Bucknell there.
Yeah, so swimming and diving, it's just like I said 2 weeks ago how incredible the last year has been.
I don't know. I was going to say I don't know if it's for Coach Snyder or for the program, but it's probably both.
Right.
I think it was their 20th district title for boys swimming, which is crazy.
I mean, and they're at least on back-to-back because I know they both won last year, boys and girls.
Right, so.
But it's been an incredible year since last spring sports season to the start of spring sports season this year, which is tomorrow. And spring sports kick off with winter sports still, the big-time district and now state playoffs are all well underway for the winter sports, and they'll be going on for the next 2 to 3 weeks if you keep on winning. But spring sports start tomorrow. I don't believe the first real games for a majority of the sports can happen before the week of the 23rd, though. So it'd be right after the basketball state championship games.
So I know sometimes it gets weird, but usually I'm thinking in the fall how golf starts real early. Like golf
starts like early August and is over by the first weekend of October or something like that. Yeah. But great athletics.
It's hard to believe because it's March, and man, that spring sports season, it gets crazy sometimes because sometimes the last week of the season is colder than the first week of the season. Like it gets really weird, but man, once it gets going, that spring sports season is fast.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's the end of April. And kind of crazy.
Yep. So boys and girls lacrosse going on, baseball and softball happening. Boys volleyball, I believe.
Yep.
And obviously track and field.
And then I think boys tennis is in the spring.
Yeah, boys tennis is in the spring. Girls tennis is in the fall. I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If boys is in the spring, I'm pretty sure girls was in the fall too. Actually,
but that's what I'm saying. Like maybe girls is in the spring because like if you put girls in the fall, that's also the same time as field hockey and girls soccer.
And girls soccer, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Not an expert, but congratulations to all involved because they're crushing it. They're doing a really, really good job. So let's talk a little bit about, let's see, where should we go first? Have you read or seen or watched any of the Combine over the last week?
A little bit, yeah.
I saw that Isaiah Simmons is an absolute beast.
Right, and all I could think was, he's too good for the Eagles to get.
Well, now he is,
right.
Because
So before he had posted the numbers, I was thinking of texting you and just saying, hey, like, where does he project? Because I know one of the things is he played, 20 different positions throughout his college career.
Yeah,
he
it was
lined up
the only thing he ever played was, nose tacklers.
Right, he lined up, 10 different positions on defense and, 4 or 5 on offense. Something crazy. And I was like, obviously, I know he's not projecting to be an offensive player, but I'm like, where is he going to project to be in the NFL? And I know that's most likely the linebacker.
Yeah,
but
it all depends on scheme.
But I mean, his speed,
It all depends on scheme.
Right.
Depending on where he lands, he could be. I would think his primary listed position is going to be a form of outside linebacker.
Right. I feel like he's an outside linebacker.
Right.
Could find himself up on the line a lot, depending on the scheme. But
in the NFL, he's in a middle linebacker. He's going to stay on the outside, but it'll allow him to be an edge rusher.
Honestly, maybe it depends on the week that you're who you're playing.
But that's why you have to find the right scheme, the right coaches. Because you have a hybrid. You have someone that is part Julius Peppers, part Von Miller.
Well, and for example, I think if you're trying to put together a defense,
part Earl Thomas,
you're putting together a defense that's going against the Chiefs. Let's say. So let's say you're. I know this doesn't necessarily fit the scheme, but if you're the Broncos or somebody and you're looking for somebody maybe he is a middle linebacker there because of just thinking of you've got a team that can spread that's super fast side to side. The Chiefs can run the ball, but their style of run the ball is not 9 guys on the line with the quarterback and back, and we're just going to pound you. That's not what it's going to be. But yeah, a lot of that is just play calling more than packages rather than where he necessarily projects. But I'm glad to see him put up good numbers because I like seeing guys do that when they're capable. It's frustrating to watch guys try to do that when they're probably just not quite capable, and they try to do all those different things. No, I was going to say he's taking some failed shots. I feel like Michigan has tried to do that a lot over the last few years. They have guys who are oh, this guy is a stud at all these different positions. And no, he's actually he's all right at a few positions, and he'd probably be better if he just picked one.
Right.
It's like when you have a switch hitter who bats 180 from both sides of the plate. You're not a switch hitter, dude. Just pick one.
You're not a hitter at all.
Right, yeah. Just pick one and bat 240, okay? And so, I kind of feel that way about Isaiah Simmons. He looks like he's really good at lots of different things, and it's fun to see. Maybe he can kind of step up there. I hope he doesn't end up on a team I hate, so... that's one of the key takeaways I saw.
I believe going into the combine, talking about the draft, Simmons was I feel like a solid top 15.
Yeah.
Some people probably would have argued top 10. Now I think he's solid top 10 and could push top 5.
Right.
And that, there's still the on-campus workouts to do.
Right. But one of the beauty things is let's say he was an offensive tackle, right? I don't know, just making up a position here, but if he's an offensive tackle, well, depending on who you are, maybe you just drafted your franchise left tackle last year. A lot of those top teams are bad for multiple years, so maybe you're not looking to draft another left tackle again this year. But when you are man, we could put him 4 or 5 different spots depending on how we kind of build other things on our team this offseason. That becomes a different conversation. There are lots of teams that can sign up for him. So I think that's a big advantage.
Reading plays St. Joe's.
Okay, I knew it was one of the Philly schools. I had the wrong Philadelphia Catholic school.
So and Muhlenberg plays Friday at 5:00 against South Fayette. So, and Brandywine Heights, Brandywine gets to play Newman Goretti.
Yeah,
that's a tough draw
at Archbishop Wood. So you're going to Philly to play Newman Goretti.
Have fun with that.
We're going to call that one a contrast of styles.
Yeah,
I don't know that I've ever shared the story on here. I probably have told you before, but at Duquesne they hosted it might have been a first round of states or maybe a late district game out at Duquesne and the Whippeal, and it was Chartiers Valley, which I would say is a school reminds me a lot of Wilson. And this particular year Chartiers Valley had about 5 6'1" kids that could all shoot. That was basically their team, right? So it was 4A at the time, and they were playing Shenley, which was was the City League champion in Philly, who had 3 or 4 players going Division I, and I mean Cincinnati, UNLV,
yeah.
And Shenley wins the tip. And the guy dribbles once, dribbles twice, throws it up at the rim. The guy comes flying in for an alley-oop dunk, 2-0.
Yeah.
Like Chartiers Valley holds the ball for 2.5 minutes, turnover, dunk, 4-0. Like that was pretty much the theme of the game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Brandywine can't pull it off. I'm just saying it's going to be a contrast of styles.
Newman Goretti has won 8 state titles over the past 10 seasons, including 5 straight from 2014 to 2018. Last year, Bishop McDevitt, no, not that Bishop McDevitt.
Right,
The other Bishop McDevitt ended that streak. But good luck to all the Berks County teams. Not to take
Absolutely.
a little detour again away from what we were talking about. But anyways, back to the NFL Combine, NFL Draft preparations ongoing. Right now, what position do you want Philadelphia to focus on? And after you say cornerback, what would be the next position you want them to focus on?
So it's kind of tough because they're drafting fairly late, like in the 20s.
Yeah. Trying to think where.
Probably right around 24-ish, maybe. I don't know.
24 is owned by. No, that might be right because I thought Miami had 24 from Houston, but I think that might be 26.
So I know it's a deep wide receiver class. Depending on who's there, maybe take wide receiver at that point. However, because it's a deep wide receiver class, who can you get in the second round? You know what I mean? That might be able to help you. Like, you got to look at that difference there, I believe. I know the offensive line has been okay. Like, depending on what lineman's there, like, I wouldn't mind seeing a lineman. I wouldn't mind seeing a linebacker. I think there's zero to slim chance that they take a linebacker in the first round. Honestly, I'd say defensive secondary or wide receiver. Like, and I know even if they're addressing secondary in lots of ways, like, they need lots of help back there. Like, I don't know. That or maybe a medical staff because they're on their third medical staff in 3 years.
Right? Yeah, it's a tough one. What do you think they're going to do with the backup quarterback situation? Because they don't have anyone.
I think they draft somebody late.
Do you think that? But that's probably likely to be the third string guy, your developmental guy.
Okay, so I think part of that is they're going to have to wait and see who kind of
because that happens in about 2.5 weeks or so.
We've talked about this before. Like, all right. So hear me out. It's like Chad played with Andy. Andy and Doug Peterson are close. Like, we've seen backups move back and forth between those guys, and now even a little bit in like Chicago. Like, it wouldn't surprise me to see maybe Chad come in as, a backup role.
That would be interesting.
Like, it's an interesting spot when you got Carson Wentz there because I know people are like, oh, he played 2 16-game seasons. Like, out of the 4, he's played 2 of them. He's played all 16 teams. Yeah. So, like, people are like, wait till he plays all 16 games. He's done it twice. And you could argue that the second year that he didn't, well, part of that was from the knee injury to begin with. So, like, he was probably rushed back a little bit there, too. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. I think they're looking for a veteran guy like that.
For sure. I mean, it would make a lot of sense, at least regionally, geographically speaking.
Right. So, like, I think that could make sense. I think you could see somebody.
Because I did see, was it the Raiders are interested in Sudfeld?
Yeah, the Raiders are interested. Yeah.
Was it McCown that was? I mean, he's 42. Is it McCown?
Yeah, McCown's there. I know McCown. There was talk that they were going to try and talk him into being like one of the coaches, one of the offensive coaches.
I mean, there's an opening there for sure.
Right.
That needs to be addressed.
Yeah, they're going to have a couple spots. It'll be interesting.
Do you think so? Say in the first round, Philly goes DB. It's a cornerback or a secondary guy. You think they do another? I don't want to say diminutive because I don't think Deshaun Jackson was that diminutive. But do you think they revisit the second round speedy receiver and go KJ in the Eagles
I'd
go
love
KJ
it.
in the second round.
I want it to happen, and KJ wants it to happen too, because he was talking at the combine. He was talking about how his best friend is Miles Sanders, and he's saying to Miles, "Put in a good word for with the Eagles for me." Like, oh my gosh,
Man, how happy would you be to have Miles and KJ there?
yeah, especially if you, just like Miles Sanders, if you can get KJ in the second round, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. I love KJ Hamler. You can't draft the 5'10" wide receiver in the first round.
No.
Like, in my opinion, you can draft a 6'4"
You can
wide
draft
receiver in the
CeeDee
first round.
Lamb or Henry Ruggs or Jerry Jeudy.
Yes, any of those. You know what? And if they do that in the first round, like, I'd be
Still
fine.
get KJ.
They're not going to be there when they're there.
No,
but,
not when the
no,
Eagles
but
fall.
oh my gosh, can you imagine?
AJ Jefferson.
I'd take AJ Jefferson. Imagine if he took Jefferson and Hamler. Like, oh my
Well,
gosh,
you know,
how excited would you? You know, and then you've got. And I saw somebody bring this up the other day. Like, I'm not convinced. Like, there are people who are like, oh, what are they going to do at running back? You know, because they lost the guys other than.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm not convinced that Sanders, Clement, who should be back and healthy this year, and Boston Scott, like, they could be your 3 running backs. Like,
and there's plenty of veterans you can add to that mix. Like,
right, you can
if you're
always-
not happy with it.
especially when you've got your 3-down guy in Miles Sanders, you've got your change-up guy in Boston Scott, and you've got a little bit of the pound the rock
You got
guy
Corey
in
Clement,
Corey
Super Bowl
Clement.
hero.
Right, exactly. And so if you needed a guy, the guy you need is big guy to get in there, you know, inside the 5.
Yeah.
Well, those are the guys that are probably easiest to pick up, you know, as opposed to just like the looking for the fast guy, because that fast guy's already on a team, you know.
Yeah, I don't see, like...
They need weapons on offense. Like they showed, like, every stat, like every advanced analytic stat shows, like, there was nothing Carson Wentz could do last year. The guys weren't open. He was getting the ball to them, and they were still dropping it.
Yeah.
You know, like, the numbers back it up. And so I think you need to get guys that can get open. And the thing there is you can get a couple guys, and that changes everything. So, like, imagine if you get KJ or Jefferson or someone like that, and all of a sudden you get Deshaun Jackson, even if Deshaun Jackson isn't as fast, but if he's healthy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, he's not as fast, but if he's healthy, you get him, you get another one. Like, it's one of those where it's kind of like adding a pitcher to the top of your rotation in baseball. I know I've done a lot of baseball analogies tonight, but, like, you know, when you're now matching, like, who was your, like, maybe borderline best pitcher is now going against the other team's second best pitchers, you know, like, that's an advantage for you. So, like, when you add, oh, this guy is now our best receiver, our second best receiver, who was our number 1 last year, is now going against the second best DB on their team, or things like that. It's huge. I also think change in offensive scheme will help. I know they didn't hire an offensive coordinator, but I know they got rid of their offensive coordinator. So I think that's a benefit too, because they were really hurt by losing both offensive guys right after the Super Bowl at the same time, and they were kind of left in a tough spot because you win the Super Bowl, it's late in the season. I don't think that did not work out as they had hoped. I'm not a big Groh fan, so.
I like the idea of doubling down. This is just kind of a general, this isn't just a Philadelphia perspective, but, you know, for them, in 2 of the first 3 or 4 picks being receivers or
I agree.
or defensive backs. And I bring this up only because there was word that Miami could do that with quarterbacks this year. Ooh. That they could. Now the rumors going on right now is that they don't love Tua enough to move up to 3 to get him. They're going to sit at 5, and even if they sit at 5, they might not take him and take Herbert.
I don't think he's going to be there at 5. I think they're going to get Herbert.
The mocks that I saw today had him dropping outside the top 10.
Really?
Yeah. So.
See, I think what's going to happen is he's going to throw in April, right before the draft, at his pro day.
Supposedly.
And he's going to look amazing, and he's going to jump right back up there.
Again, this is from the combine stuff, but it's from sources that I trust. And they're public out there. This isn't someone telling me this. I'm seeing it on Twitter and stuff. That there was enough noise from scouts and front office personnel that not enough of the league is sold on Tua, specifically his medical history.
Yeah. Which is
to
interesting.
invest a top
One
5
of the things
pick.
I'd heard, I heard somebody talking this week that he's never played a full season, not in high school, not in college, and they said the pros will get to see he's never played a full season because he's always been hurt.
So that's rough. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But regardless,
What are your
of
thoughts on
the
Justin Herbert?
Tua or Herbert's, it's one of those that I like the experience.
It's tough because like everybody's like, if he came out last year, he would have been the number 1 quarterback, which I don't think he would have been. I think Kyler Murray would have been, but
I like the experience factor.
Yeah.
I like the size. I just don't know that the execution was there over, he was a 4-year starter, wasn't he?
I think so.
And as long as and I haven't done a deep dive into him because I was mostly focused on Tua for a while, that I need to go and do I need to read up on him from the draft sites that I venture to.
What about the Love kid?
So that is the other one. They expect him to
Utah State,
possibly
right?
sneak into the later parts of first round where a team trades back in to ensure the 5th-year option. Because I guess there are changes coming for the 5th-year option, but I think it's better for the players.
Well, I think so. Love had a great year 2 years ago, and then this past year didn't do as well, including like 17 interceptions.
Yeah.
But they're like, now some of that is him. But they're like, he also played with 4 new linemen and lost his top 4 wide receivers.
Right.
So like, they're like, he was, and they mentioned at Utah State, it's not like at Alabama where you've got.
You're just reloading.
You've got probably kids that are some of which are better stepping in. You're not reloading at Utah State. Yeah.
So a team, in the final 5 to 7 picks of the first round, could be looking to draft them as maybe a quarterback heir in the future, or a team from the top 10 that didn't take a quarterback early trades back into the end of the first round.
So the Patriots will take him.
So the Patriots would be an option. How about, what do you make of that Brady video with Edelman? Did you see it?
Yeah, how weird was that? And did you see the thing today from the other angle? One of the fans saw it. Edelman later pulled up Vrabel on FaceTime, and they were FaceTiming with Vrabel while they were there.
It's a unique situation, that's for sure.
Did you see how Brady looked like he wanted to kill Edelman?
Yeah.
Which also makes me think, like, I can very much picture Edelman as being the friend in any group that is constantly the guy that, like, everybody's like, yeah, we're friends, but is always there, and everybody's like, at some point in the night, you're like, I want to kill him. Like, I can't stand it. Like, why is he here? Like, I feel like Edelman is definitely that guy. He is absolutely that guy. And it's not this isolated incident. I mean, like when he's jumping on the hood of a car out in California, like, he's that guy.
Or things we can't mention because it's a family-friendly show.
Yeah.
How about, all right, let's just say New England's off the table. Brady's not going back to the Patriots. This is just a hypothetical. Just to make this fun. Where would your top 3 locations be where you think he will land?
I wasn't into it at first, but I think Tennessee is on that list.
Okay.
I think so. It's kind of crazy because you have to look at places where, see, Tennessee matches it from a football standpoint, but it doesn't match it from any of the other standpoints.
Right.
To me, I feel like the Chargers are being overvalued. I don't know why he'd want to go into a division where he's going to have to beat Patrick Mahomes just to win the division.
Right.
Like,
that could be a tough sell.
When it also looks like the Raiders may be on the, climb as well. Like, I feel like that's iffy. An interesting one that I hadn't heard much was Tampa.
You're going to take mine.
Tampa, right? Which is interesting because you've been on the Saints decline for years now, right? That's got to happen eventually. Panthers, who knows? New coach, possibly new quarterback there, trying to figure things out. Atlanta, who knows? Like, they've got some more fight left, right? Like, I think they do, but you never know. And I don't think Brady's afraid of Matt Ryan in Atlanta, though.
Right.
So I think Tampa, man, you go there, he's got better wide receivers than he's had for years. In Bruce Arians loves the veteran quarterback. I wouldn't write out Tampa. This is like silly, but you go to Florida, which has no state personal income tax.
Right.
I know, like, people are like, well, how much?
It matters when you're making that.
It matters. It matters to everybody, and when you're making a lot, it matters a lot.
See, there's this thing called percentages.
Right. We had this discussion yesterday. Hey, just because you're not good at numbers doesn't mean the numbers aren't correct. So I'm going to go Tennessee, Tampa, and Vegas.
Tennessee 1, Tampa 2, Vegas 3.
Yeah, I think Vegas is the outlier that could be it, but isn't going to be it.
I have just one of those
Okay.
in mine. I thought my Tampa was going to be a little bit under the radar, sneaky, because I haven't heard it too much.
I only heard it once.
But
the more I thought about it, I'm like,
Tampa
I think
is
that works.
actually my number one because I think that Bruce Arians has an interesting coaching style.
And I think it's a style that Brady likes.
I think Brady would like it. So
that, like, football guy, like,
I think that is
And
my number one.
another one of those weird, like, kind of like can come across as a jerk, but the guys that play for him love him.
Right.
Bruce Arians. You know, like that to me describes him.
My number 2 is Indianapolis because I think what's the owner's name? Irsay wants to do the reverse Manning, where he, I know that was his decision,
Right.
to move on from Peyton, but I think he'd like to maybe
he'd go to Indy after Indy reported the Deflategate stuff.
I don't know. It depends on, like, how much does money matter and how many bridges have been burned. Like, I don't know. I just feel like that's a
What if
possibility.
he went to Indy and won one though? Then he's got that over Manning too. Like, I won one for Indy too. Like that kind of thing. Like,
And when we said that, him leaving is make or break for his legacy versus Belichick.
yeah.
Like, Brady is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, quarterbacks ever. But I think it harms him in that debate being with Belichick because Belichick has proven without him that he can still perform at a very high level.
all that Brady's done without Belichick is lose the starting job at Michigan to
Right?
Drew Henson, to a AAA third baseman.
So here's my number 3, and this one is kind of out of left field. I don't know that's even a distinct possibility, but I think the connection, and it probably would depend on a lot of factors, and I'm trying not to talk myself out of it because I think it is kind of crazy. And a lot of things would have to change. There would probably have to be a lot of convincing on the free agent market and ideas of what would happen in the draft. But I think my third is Detroit
Okay.
because of Matt Patricia.
Right.
Now, maybe they didn't have a great relationship, and I know he's the defensive guy. Like,
Right.
I understand there's
I
no
also know
overlap
he's
there.
like
But
a rocket scientist.
But, like, where there's smoke, there's fire, so they're obviously don't feel enthralled with the end of Matt Stafford
Right.
era.
Which I think is honestly good for both. I think Matt Stafford could go somewhere else and be very good. You know where? I think Matt Stafford to Vegas would be very
I
interesting.
think Matt Stafford
Or
to New England would be very interesting.
no. I don't want that to happen. Matt Stafford to Indy would be interesting.
Very
Like,
interesting.
so.
But, I mean, and I don't want to make it just like the only line there is Patricia was with him for how many years in New England. But you mentioned, like, because I always thought the Chargers and Vegas were huge options, but with, like, does he really want to be the second best quarterback in the division?
All right, so let's cut through the pleasantries here. Who's willing to cheat? Right, that's what it's going to come down to. Who's willing to cheat?
The
and that's
Lions, because
that's
Patricia's got it built into his
exactly.
system.
So
Maybe the Titans.
That's what it's going to be.
You know?
Absolutely, the Titans. They've got a guy too. So I think they've got to be the front runners, right?
Yeah,
like I hadn't thought
would
about
be
it.
right at the top. Probably would be right at the
Just
top.
wasn't sure. I'm trying to get another email. We haven't gotten a nasty email. For
We
a
haven't
couple
had
weeks,
one in
so.
a while, but yeah, so we're gonna start to wind things down here. Just to circle back to the beginning, your dad mentioned about Wilson basketball. They've been surviving some close games, both versus Methacton, which we talked about, and against Reading here in the district championship. Does that bode well for them? I mean, definitely does, that they can hang in there and fight till the end. But it's also part of me is like, man, wouldn't it be nice to get some comfortable wins against some of the type? But you mentioned it earlier. All the teams you're playing now are very good, or they wouldn't be at this point.
Right, and the thing in basketball is like,
if one shooter has a bad night, like if you're a team that only has one or two scorers and one of them is off,
like there's no coincidence. And it was kind of crazy because in the second quarter of the district championship game, when Stevie and Michael went out, Wilson pushed the lead from 7 to 12. I think it was what it was, or 8 to 12, or something like that. Drago had tweeted it out, and I was like, "That's huge that they were able to extend the lead in that time." It was like a 2-minute stretch. But in the third quarter, Stevie rolled his ankle or whatever, and it was awful. It just you're left like, oh my gosh, like they're climbing back in it, and you're like, what's happening? What's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening? But then they were able to kind of stem the tide, and you just knew like, man, these last 10 minutes, the last couple minutes of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, this isn't gonna be a relaxing I told you this when we were going up. I was like, I kept score when the Wilson girls won the district title.
Yeah, which was back-to-back in 13-14.
So when I did that, first of all, when there's a scorekeeper, there's an official keeping the scorebook, and there's someone from both teams. So you're just there to double check, right? So there's not really high stress. And Wilson won by double digits, so it wasn't, it wasn't like a complete blowout, but it wasn't like a game that came down to the end, know. Whereas this was one of those games, so it was a very different feel. It was very exciting. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad they were able to get it done. I'm happy for the kids and, and for
definitely.
the coaches and all that's gone into that.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to see what they're able to do in the state playoffs. So, do you have anything else to add? Anything to mention? I'm trying to think if I have any. There are a ton of birthdays and family and friends in the month of March coming up.
This means you have too many friends.
This is probably true. This is probably very true. So
I felt it was safe to say that because March isn't when my birthday is. That would be a dangerous thing if it was a March birthday. You're just like, okay, bye.
Yeah. So that'll be coming up. I don't think there's any in the first week. It's like a lot of them are near the end. A lot of the ones I know are near the end. So,
I agree.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but just looking at the girls' District 3 basketball champions, there's the run that I was talking to you about right there, when Wilson won 3 out of 4, 97, 98, and 2000.
So that 2000 was when I told you Columbia girls won, and the next game was the Wilson.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
That's cool. And Wilson won in 2008, and then back-to-back in 2013 and 2014. So Wilson's in there with 6.
I think the 2014 was probably the one I did.
I think you're probably right. They beat Dover by 13.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
They beat Central Dauphin the year before by 11.
Yep.
So Central Dauphin girls just won it, the one we were at. So,
yeah.
Interesting stuff. Good deal.
But
So, I guess that's about it then, unless you have something to add,
I've got
something,
nothing.
shout out to say, anything to mention. We talked about Minithon, which is great, and all of the Wilson athletics, a little bit on NFL Combine and upcoming NFL Draft. And where is Brady going to go? But we'll have another show next weekend. It'll probably be similar to this. Maybe we'll start talking a little bit baseball.
Yeah.
Because I had some baseball stuff I was going to bring up, but we talked a lot about local high
saw
school sports.
Someone asked JP Romuto what the goal is, and he's like, to win the NL East. Like what, or where do you think you'll end up in the NFL East? And he's like, we think we can win it. And I was like, I wanted to just quote tweet it and be like, this is just a nice JP Romuto's just nice way of saying what Jimmy Rollins said is we're the team to beat.
That's right. But that won't get the headlines, what he said.
Right, exactly.
That's what Jimmy Rollins said will definitely
Oh my gosh.
be getting the headlines. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for baseball.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm super excited for baseball. Just the other day, just a couple days ago, was the anniversary of Bryce Harper signing.
Yeah.
I think it was on the 28th, so just 2 days ago. So we've got a year under Bryce's
So
deal.
that was one of those things where it happened. And I was like, that can't be yet. Like that didn't happen until the end of end of February. And I was like, wait a second, it is the end of February.
The end of February. Yeah,
Snuck up on me.
that happens sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
But all right, so that wraps up episode 297. One step closer to 300.
That's crazy.
Coming down the pipe here in March, we'll hit it. March 8th, kind of a general sports thing. March 15th will be March Madness. We'll get to unveil our bracket challenge, which will be a lot of fun. And then the next week, March 22nd, that is our 300th episode. So
Wow.
I don't know if anything special is going to happen. It might just be us talking. So probably March Madness and baseball. And throw a little, we'll have NFL free agency then. So maybe by then we'll know where Chad's going to be playing and if any big moves have happened in the Brady saga.
What's going to be interesting is, does Brady feel the need to act early? I think he will, because he wants the team to be able to build like the pieces they need.
Maybe this will be like the LeBron James summer, and he'll have a big
I think at the Boys and Girls Club. I'm taking my talents to Tampa
to Indianapolis, Buffalo.
Oh my gosh.
All right. It's time to go. Thanks for listening to the show, everyone, and we'll see you again real soon. In a week's time, actually.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. Woo-hoo! You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as The Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.